Hey, so today I'll be watching Bibliophile Princess, Episode 2. But really quick before I get into the episode, I just want to mention a few things. The first being, of course, the books I have here now. At the bottom I have classical mythology, then I have the full and unabridged version of the tale, Beauty and the Beast. Then the historical fiction book of the Egyptian queen Nefertiti. The fantasy book, Part of Your World. The light novel for wolf children, and Mrs. Frisbee and the Secret of Nim. But besides my background books, I also have a bookmark that will now be a part of my background that says, with a dreamy far-off look and her nose stuck in a book. And when I saw it, I thought it was very fitting with this anime. And also because when I saw it, I just loved it because it depicts Belle reading the book, and Belle is just nonchalant about it and just reading her book, not really paying attention, while the Beast is clearly struggling carrying all those books. And I thought it was both sweet and very funny. Also, the shirt I'm wearing today I wore specifically for this episode because the shirt says living the dream, and to me, Eliana is living the dream, or at the very least, living my dream. And one more thing I wanted to point out before getting into this episode was the fact that I ended up checking on the light novel, and I found that at least for right now, it's not available physically, only via Kindle. And I thought that was so strange. Like, this is literally a series about somebody who loves books, and yet the only copy anybody can get is a virtual one. I considered buying it, but I was like, I'm gonna wait a little bit. Hopefully the physical copy comes out soon. But I did read the sample that was available on Amazon, and to me it cleared up a few things. Since obviously this light novel series is from Eliana's perspective, we get more of her inside thoughts. And one of them was that she believes that the sudden change of everybody treating her differently now, more serious, less in a caring way and more like a stern way, like they did in the second half of the episode, is because she believes that since Lady Irene is obviously the one that Christopher truly loves and is going to marry, then all the servants are doing their best to keep their distance from her, for when he does call off their engagement for Lady Irene, it won't be such a drastic change for them. That they're trying to distance themselves and care more for Lady Irene instead of Eliana because they know that she will be the true fiancé. At least in Eliana's mind. Because actually that was one of my questions, like why all of a sudden are they treating her differently? The guard is more stern, Lord Theodore is also more stern. So I guess it kind of makes sense, like, okay, this is the new one, so we gotta distance ourselves with the old one and not care for her anymore and start caring for Lady Irene more. Since this will be our new queen one day. At least in Eliana's mind. Now with all that being said, onto the episode. Of course, that's her biggest gripe. Oh, was she trying to believe in him? Would she believe in his words finally? Oh. I'm glad she believes that. That's why they wanted her to not be there today. No, not the same thing he told her. Ellie, that's cute. Dang, it's really like they're trying to hide an affair. Yeah, exactly. The light in her eyes is gone. I relate to that too, girl. Overthinking. One woman show. Wow, their concern is touching. Fairy princess. Well, she is heading there anyways. Wow. Look, she's gonna see him. She's gonna see him anyways. Don't tell me she's gonna say that Eliana pushed her. I knew she was gonna say that. Chris.
怪我をしたの大丈夫かい何があったのか教えてくれるかな
私殿下とのことは誤解ですただそうエリアーナ様に
You didn't tell her anything.
でもエリアーナ様は階段から私を突き落とされて
This reminds me so much of mine.
他にも何か君に
クリス様私ずっと言えなくて
全ての罪を明らかにするために君の口から証言してくれるかい
実は高級に行儀見習いに上がってからというもの何度も嫌がらせを受けておりました下級貴族と罵られて下女のように扱われ食事を抜かれたり
Is all that true?
では馬小屋に寝床を移されてそれが全て高級の将来のある
When did she say any of that?
取りに行きましたら放水で水浸しにその姿を笑われ頼んでいませんし笑ってもいませんが頼まれていった書庫室でははしごに細工がされていて危うく転げ落ちるところでした私も気づきましたが細工されていたのですね先日はエリアーナ様からいただいたお菓子に知りませんでした虫かぶり姫の私は随分と行動的だったようです
確かにエリーが君を突き落としたんだね
He doesn't believe her.
間違いありませんあの状態で突き落としたの
いやできないだろう軽業師でもある前に
Good thing Alexei gave her all those things. I mean, you could say she pushed her with her legs or something, but unlikely.
アレクのやつ加減しろといつもあれほどまあ誰が見ても不可能ですね宮廷学士の耳から付け加えさせてもらうなら愛林城の悲鳴が上がった後に階段を転がり落ちる音がしたまるであらかじめ襲われるのが分かっていたみたいにね特に今日決定打を狙ったのは親子ともども破滅への行進曲だった
お父様
では本番といこうかエリアーナ・ベルンシュタイン公爵令嬢への傷害及び
Assassination?
殿下何かの間違いです私こそが被害者です
So much shield hero parallels.
私と一緒におられた殿下こそが本来のあなた様です
まずは高級の件今現在エリアーナに高級における権限はない取り仕切っているのは現王妃である私の母上だもし君の申し立てが事実ならば王太子の名において私から母上に責任を追及しそれが虚偽の言葉であった場合王族に対する不敬罪愛林城君が高級で嫌がらせを受けたというのは事実か君が自作自演した被害の全てなら立証できる僕はこういう時のための殿下の隠し駒なんだ
No longer a secret, man.
被害を加える者がいないか見張る
Oh,
君は自身で発言したね書庫室のはしごに
true.
差し入れの異物混入先日バラ園での放水騒ぎの際身元不明の侵入者が王宮内に入り込む不祥事があったこの件に関して何か承知だろうかパルカス子爵
私は何も
侵入者の目的はエリアーナの暗殺だったはしごへの細工茶葉への毒物混入いずれもエリアーナを狙ったものでありアイリーン城が出入りした直後の出来事であると
Too obvious.
責任者であるテオドール叔父上から報告が上がっている
By spilling the tea? They do care.
言いがかりですわ。すべて誰かが仕組んだこと。虫かぶりが分不相応な地位に居座り続けることがおかしなことではありませんか。本当にその方が王妃にふさわしいと。
I knew somebody would be against this. I knew it was too weird that nobody said anything.
かぶり姫に騙されているのですわ。
私が自ら我が婚約者殿の功績と評価を上げることほど口はばったいものはない。
殿下、アイリーン様の発言がすべて誤りというわけでは。
4年前のワイマール地方の領主の汚職の発覚は、おかげで現在はワイマール漁港から運ばれる勉強させられております。
そういえばワイマールの主婦の日常の本は大流行しましたわね。
エリアーナ城の取り寄せた東方見聞書から新種の薬草と効能が発見されました。
Her books are saving lives.
進言されたのはおかげでマルドラに食料を
蘇らせて流行にしたのはエリアーナ様ですわ。
From all her reading.
我が婚約者殿の功績と影響力は皆も十分理解してくれているようだ。
なぜでしょう。まるでもう逃がさないと言われているような。
殿下、カスール伯爵をお連れしました。
1ヶ月前、鑑定士も本物だと鑑定したものだ。
Eliana was the one who said it, right?
まがいものではないでしょう。
She realized it with her reading. Yes, reading saves lives, people.
偽物だと判明した。そのことをきっかけに調べた暗殺騒ぎが頻発している。黒幕はなかなか尻尾を出さない。だが泳がせていた鑑定士が不審死を遂げた直後からエリアーナの身辺が不穏になってきた。エリアーナに見破られ恨みか、それとも彼女を排除することで己の娘を後釜に据えようとし、どちらかな。パルカス子爵。
何の証拠が。
パルカス子爵が所有する材木資材の中から贋作が発見された。証拠は全て抑えた。この度の贋作騒動、そなたも被害者の一人ではある。
贋作を見抜き、家への不名誉を未然に防いでいただいた心より御礼申し上げます。僭越ながら我がカスール家エリアーナ・ベルンシュタイン城の非殿下への後押しをさせていただきます。
エリーを認めなかった貴族最後の一人。
非殿下とは私を見せかけの。
このような場で公にするのは自重すべきとは思うが、先ほど皆のエリアーナへの忌憚のない評価を聞かせてもらった。故に問おう。エリアーナ・ベルンシュタイン城が我が妃として立つことに否やのある者は今この場で名乗り出。
私は名ばかりの婚約者だったはずでは。
舞台から降りても君を離す気はないけどエリ、あの日からずっとこの時を待ち望んでいた。
Alright, so this episode cleared up a lot of things for me. For one, mainly why everybody was treating her so differently and so coldly. And I knew it wasn't because that the fact that everybody seemed to be treating her coldly and distant before wasn't because what Eliana thought. That they were doing all this because Lady Irene was going to be the real queen. But more so because they're trying to keep their distance, trying to keep an eye on Lady Irene to ensure Eliana's safety. I love the fact that this Lady Irene situation was cleared up in this episode and wasn't dragged on for like the whole series. And that finally Eliana realizes that this is no longer a fake engagement. This is a real engagement. And I knew he liked her because they met as kids. Cause I saw in the opening last week that in a scene they looked younger. But I wasn't too sure if they were actually kids or not. But when I saw it again this time, I was like, oh, they were kids. And I thought, oh, it's probably a typical cliche. They met as kids, he liked something about her, and he waited all this time to get her to marry him. Now that kinda reminded me of the anime My Next Life as a Villainess. Because Katarina's fiancé, Prince Giordo, met her as a kid, and once she changed her personality from being, a spoiled duke's daughter into a hyperactive and really different person, he eventually fell in love with her. Although even initially in that anime, he proposed to her because she ended up getting injured and he felt bad about it. So he's like, the right thing to do is offer marriage. He never realized that he would actually fall in love with her. And the entire scene where Lady Irene was lying about everything, saying that Eliana pushed her when she didn't, saying Eliana did all these things when she clearly didn't do any of those things, really remind me of mine from the anime, The Rising of the Shield Hero, since she lied about Naofumi doing a bunch of things that he didn't even do. And then of course the whole trial happened at the end of the first season and the truth was revealed. I was really reminded of them because of this mini trial. Because her father was a part of the whole plot. She kept lying and lying, insisting that Eliana was bad, she was the good one, she would never do this, but there was a bunch of evidence against her. She was taken care of. But I'm so glad that it happened in this episode, and it didn't have to happen all the way at the end. Also, the part where Prince Christopher asked everybody if they have any objections to Eliana being his queen really reminded me of the manga series, Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts. Since in that manga series, a lot of the people in that kingdom do not like the fact that Saphir is going to be the queen. For quite a few reasons, but the major one being the fact that she's human. And the Beast King wants to make her queen of the Beast Kingdom. And of course the Beast kind are not too happy about that. But he does not care that nobody really likes her. He says that he's the one who chooses his queen, and he chose her, and he doesn't care who doesn't like it. She's the one who's going to be his queen. I also wanted to add one anime series that I didn't mention last time. My Roommate is a Cat. Since in that anime series, the main character Subaru, much like Eliana and mine, loves books. But he's actually a bit different than them as well. And the fact that he not only loves books, but he also writes his own. Which, yeah, you could say that mine does the same thing, but mine doesn't have much of a choice. There are no books around her. Of course she has to make her own. And Eliana doesn't have to write her own books because she has so many to read. And I also relate to his character because 1, we're both introverts, and 2, we love books. I also really love the part where Prince Christopher asks if everybody accepts Eliana as their future queen, and if they support him in his decision. And I actually thought the first person that spoke was gonna be all against it, but that wasn't the case. Everybody started saying nice things about her, how she even helped them because she realized things that others wouldn't, because she read so much. I really like that detail because typically you don't see that a lot, knowledgeable in things because of everything they've read. I was even surprised that she could figure out that the royal family treasure was fake. And that inadvertently reminded me of another anime series called Homes of Kyoto. Because in that anime series, it's basically about the main character going into an appraisal shop and she ends up meeting an employee who's very good at telling what's real and what's fake. Just like Eliana did in this episode. I also like the fact that I was right. I knew there had to be people against her being his fiancé. Not everybody would be okay with that. She's not a princess, technically. She's really into books. She has a reputation for that. And she isn't the most social person because she's always reading. Although that being said, we haven't seen the queen at all during this time. So I don't know if maybe she's also not a social person or not, or because she's the queen, she doesn't have time to socialize a whole bunch. But I don't see the issue, really. Maybe only in the fact that she's not a princess and that's typically a criteria for future kings to marry a princess. But I mean, others have done it before. His Majesty and Saphir being a prime example of that. One more thing that I liked was that we were kept in the dark about all the things that Eliana was kept in the dark about. We never knew there were assassination attempts or trying to bring harm to her. Because all we saw was things that Eliana was seeing. We didn't see anything else. Which typically other animes would show that. At least some inkling that, something's amiss, something's going on. A certain look or something. But nothing. We were kept in the dark until right now we're like, wait, there was an assault almost? There was an assassination attempt? When? I didn't see any of that. But because just like Eliana, we were clueless. What I actually thought would happen in this episode was that the whole thing would be cleared up. And that Lady Irene was just super friendly and she would then become friends with Eliana and that was it. I did not think that she was so conniving and evil. But I'm super glad that Prince Christopher knew right from the start that, you know what, I don't believe you for a second. When she told him, oh, Eliana pushed me, he did not believe her at all. I love that. He had full faith in Eliana. I can't wait to see what happens in next week's episode.